We've heard some news that you are considering retiring soon.
You did.
I did.
We did.
It's not true.
It's not.
It's not true?
Really?
Who
Yeah.
did we get this information from?
Well, I mean,
scaling back.
I'm 63. I've been scaling back for a long time. 4 years ago, I quit working on Fridays. Does that count?
I feel like that's getting there, yeah.
That's a step in the right direction. We moved my son. 12 years he's been working here, and moved him. The operating board moved him into the president's role in January. What is that now? 9-10 months ago, and he and I get to work together for the first time. He's always worked for someone else here, so we're having a blast working together. So for this next season, I'm the CEO and he's the president. And no, I'm not. Someday I will retire. But retirement for me will actually be I'll still do the show. As long as I make sense. If I quit making sense and I start hurting the brand, then we'll have to take me off. But that'll happen or become completely irrelevant and just an angry boomer. But close now maybe.
All
but
right.
anyway, but we'll do that, and I'll continue to speak as much as I can and those kinds of things. I enjoy those things, and so that'll be my retirement to do those things. But I'll be down here most days.
How much thought do you put into legacy? In terms of building your business, passing it on, and making sure that everyone you give it to doesn't take it for granted?
Way too much. I started 15 years ago, and the operating board, we set annual goals around brand transfer, ownership transfer, and legacy and leadership transfer, and those are all legacy items, succession planning, if you will. And so, we've been working very, very hard on it for 15 years, and it's harder than I thought it was going to be. In our case, there's really three elements. The ownership issue, which means I need to raise the Ramsey kids and teach them business acumen over a series of decades, which we've done, to be wise owners. Because even if I got good leadership team, if the owners are dumb and they make the good leadership team do dumb things, the good leadership team will leave, and the company will go down. Okay, the legacy will be blown up. So you have to have wise owners, and you have to have a quality leadership team, bench depth. They carry on the values. In our case, it's different than, and would be in anybody in our space, all of us. When you are the product of the brand, you've got a brand transfer that's very difficult. And the others, there were good best practices. We found lots of people that had transferred, generational businesses, ownership-wise and leadership-wise. Found lots of good data out there, lots of good books and families that we could talk to that had done it. They're on Gen 4, Gen 5, that kind of thing. And so lots of best practices we could get. But it's very hard to find somebody who's done a brand transfer like ours because I'm just the stinking brand.
Yep.
And when I'm not there, what's the brand? And so we started working on what we now these days call Ramsey personalities. Instead of doing a one-to-one handoff, it turns out being the guy that follows the guy is almost impossible. It's almost 100% failure rate. Paul Harvey Jr. Very seldom can take Paul Harvey's seat. Occasionally it works, but it's so rare it's not something you want to model. But we did figure out a one-to-many had a chance. And so that's why I didn't put the whole thing on my daughter Rachel Cruz's shoulders. And then we have now raised up a George Camel and a Jade Warshaw and a John Deloney and a Ken Coleman. And we're in not only the money space, but the other spaces. And so and we actually have started studying. We have these dumb accounting measurements of whether it's working. It's probably more than you wanted to know, but you asked.
No, I'm curious.
But when we started, it was like, okay, I'm producing all the revenue off of my brand. And so if I die today, what happens to all these employees? Well, they're screwed. The whole thing's going to fold up like a bad tent. That's where it started when I was 48 years old. And we said, okay, then we need to measure non-Dave revenue. So if Rachel is going and doing a book, that's non-Dave revenue. Or if Ken Coleman goes and speaks somewhere, that speaking fee is a non-Dave revenue, right? Which is kind of a weird. We've had to have dumb names around here for stuff all the time. And so then we started calling it worse. Now it's called the survivability index.
That sounds a bit morbid, no?
Very morbid.
It's like when we get it's awful. It's like when we get to once a year we do an estate planning meeting where we talk to all the leaders and all the owners and about what happens if Dave dies this year. And I call it the Monty Python meeting. I'm feeling much better. It's just a flesh wound. It's like, oh my God,
just a cold, guys.
It's horrible.
Okay.
I'm sitting there and talking about me dying for an hour and a half. But you have to plan it because otherwise you just you ensure the failure of the thing you've worked so hard to build.
Are you treating your health differently as a result of that, of the survivability index of, hey, maybe I should go to the gym more, get more exercise,
No,
eat
I
healthier
mean,
now?
it actually takes the weight off of me. The more, and we had a goal of having by the year 2022, we wanted it to be at 50% of the revenue was not mine. And the great news is that in 2023 we're at about 78%.
No
Survive
way.
if I'm not here, because it's not only that they're producing it, but we built the business models out in such a way that it's not Dave dependent to continue to run. Okay, for instance, our high school curriculum is a $15-20 million business in high schools. They don't care if I'm alive or not. That's got like a 98% survivability, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. Teachers are like, Dave died. We can't teach it anymore because I'm not even in the videos. So hardly, just a little bit, and we could chop those out in 20 minutes. So, yeah, they could chop those out. I won't be here, but yeah, that's kind of stuff. It's very interesting. It makes you think about your business model stuff, and it takes the pressure off of that. So it's weird. It's awkward. But if you don't talk about it, you screw it up.
Yeah.
I'm curious on passing on the legacy. How are you going to ensure that the people that end up taking your place are going to be able to fill those shoes? Because they're massive shoes to fill. And a lot of the times, like you were mentioning, you need to take it very slow. And you need to make sure that they work for it. You mentioned your son, now how he's in the role of being president of the company. I heard from somebody that he had to climb that ladder like one rung at a time.
It was tough.
And it was not easy.
Yeah,
so how intentional were you about doing that? Because a lot of people, they mess it up. Generational wealth usually only lasts like 3 generations, as they say.
Well, again, we studied some principles, and some of them were that you can't. Obviously, nepotism leads to the destruction of legacy. So, meaning putting someone that's incompetent into a role because they happen to hit the DNA lottery. They happen to be in your bloodline. That's just dumber than a rock. And the other thing is we want to put people in roles that they fit in. David Green told me at Hobby Lobby, he said, if the job is to climb a tree, get a squirrel, not a dog. And so, my children the Bible says, train up a child in the way he is bent, is the old King James, and train up a child in the way he's bent, the way he is made, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. And so we did not put Rachel, who's very good on camera, very good on stage, incredible on social media, horrible on details. We did not put her in charge of accounting. The whole place would be gone. It would have burned down. Okay, and so Put her where she's a dancing poodle. I mean, everybody. I've got 3 kids. Everybody's got a kid that comes out with a cigar and a bottle of champagne. Rachel's that kid. She's a party looking for a place to happen. She's perfect for this, and she's brilliant. She's world class at it. But to make her the CEO, well, the people would just leave, not because they don't like her, because everybody likes her, but because they would have no idea what we're doing, because we would make it up every morning. And it's not. And my son Daniel's quite the opposite. He does not want to be on camera and on stage, but he's very entrepreneurial and loves products and digital products and projects and design. Organizational design and all this stuff. And so put them where their strengths are, and you've got a good shot at doing that. But you can't ensure. The only thing we can do is to test and gradually do it. So, like, for instance, when we went to one of the moves we made was 2 years ago, we went from the Dave Ramsey show to the Ramsey show. Mm-hmm. And we thought it was a huge deal. And the weird thing is we did not announce it. We didn't even tell our 680 radio stations. 2 radio stations called us and loved it. None of the rest of them noticed. Our listenership in the comments went, they just changed the name. Well, that's cool. Well, they're doing that succession thing they talk about. Okay, that's cool. And then it was over. For us, it was this big emotional thing. And it was, oh, wow, are we making a chance? Are we going from Coke to original Coke? And nobody cared but us.
So you think it was better not to announce it?
It turns out it was genius not to announce it.
Okay.
In that case, we just did it. And then for the first 8 months or so, if I wasn't on the air, the numbers were down. I had a co-host, like I do now on the Ramsey show. But if I wasn't there at all, and it was 2 of them doing it, the numbers were down. Now the numbers are up when I'm not there.
You're kidding.
Serious. So people don't want to see you anymore?
So distressing.
Who is
How does
this
that
guy?
feel?
Yeah.
You
Does that
plan
feel-
not to be important, and your plan works. It sucks.
how much does that hurt your ego?
It
knowing that
hurts
you,
my
you built this
feelings.
up, but now it's like.
But
you're
it was
not
my
getting-
plan. I did it on purpose, and so you got this. On one hand, it's like it worked. We're successful, and on the other hand, it's like they don't like me. But
Yeah.
it's great. It's a weird set of emotions too.
How do you set your own
plan,
feelings?
plan to be less important, and
How
then
do
it
you
works.
set your feelings aside on something like that and don't take it personally and view it objectively?
Well,
'Cause
I
obviously
have to
this is your
say,
life's work.
the way you do it, I intellectually make the decision of it's what I was trying to do, so I really shouldn't gripe about it. I was really trying to make it where this place survives without me. Hello. And that it, how do you ensure that generationally it doesn't crash when Dave's gone, and well, you put it on before you're gone and you make it work before you're gone. And then it did. And dad blame it did. And so, it's the little boy Dave that's 6 years old and wants to be important that lives inside of me and still lives inside of everyone. He's got his little feelings hurt, but the man Dave who's thinking about legacy and generational change and my grandkids and my great grandkids and the number of lives that'll be touched because we did this right after I'm gone, that guy's real proud.